The moment my girlfriend told me that her ex felt uncomfortable because I was nearby, I knew something inside our relationship had already died. She had invited him to the birthday party I had planned for her, then asked me to disappear so they could enjoy themselves. I did exactly what she wanted. I left quietly, but when I returned, I made sure nothing between us would ever be the same again. My name is Grant, and I was 28 when this happened. I worked in information technology for a medium-sized company, lived a fairly simple life, and believed strongly in loyalty. 3 years earlier, I met Madison through mutual friends at a game night. She was confident, funny, and full of energy, while I was quieter and more practical. We became exclusive within months, and eventually she moved into my apartment. I thought we were building a real partnership. Madison worked as a freelance graphic designer, and her income could be unpredictable, so I often covered expenses when work became slow. I cooked, handled most bills, supported her projects, and even helped connect her with people through my professional network. When she needed someone at 2 in the morning after a family emergency, I drove hours through heavy rain without hesitation. I never considered those things sacrifices. There was one person I tried not to think about too much, though. His name was Logan, Madison's former boyfriend. They had been together for years before me, and she insisted that relationship was completely finished. Yet his name kept appearing in conversations. She compared my stable career with his photography lifestyle and sometimes spoke about their adventures with a strange warmth. I noticed the old photographs too, but I convinced myself that none of it mattered anymore. Then Madison started becoming distant. She spent more time staring at her phone, showed less affection, and seemed irritated whenever I asked whether something was wrong. She always blamed work stress. Her birthday was approaching, so I decided to focus on making her happy instead of questioning everything. I organized a party at our apartment, arranged catering, bought decorations, invited friends, and even ordered a custom cake featuring her design work. For a while, I believed everything was finally okay. The party began on a Friday evening, and the apartment quickly filled with music, conversations, drinks, and laughter. I spent most of the night making sure everyone had what they needed while Madison enjoyed herself with her friends. Then the doorbell rang. When I opened it, Logan stood there with a camera hanging from his shoulder. I had never invited him, but he smiled and casually told me Madison had asked him to come. My stomach tightened immediately. I tried to ignore it, but I could not ignore what happened next. Madison and Logan spent most of the evening together in a corner, talking closely and laughing like they had never separated. Her hand rested on his arm while he whispered something near her ear. Eventually, I walked over and tried to join them. Instead of welcoming me, Madison looked irritated. A few minutes later, she pulled me into the hallway and quietly told me that Logan was uncomfortable because I kept hovering around them. For a second, I honestly thought I had misunderstood her. I reminded her that this was our apartment and that I was not hovering. I was simply standing with my girlfriend at her birthday party. Madison rolled her eyes and accused me of acting jealous. She said Logan and she had history, that they were only catching up, and that my attitude was ruining the atmosphere. Then she told me something I will never forget. She said I should leave for a while. I did not argue with her. I did not embarrass her in front of everyone, and I did not demand an explanation. I simply picked up my jacket and walked out. Sitting alone at a nearby diner, I stared at my untouched coffee and replayed every moment of our relationship. Suddenly, all those little warning signs made sense. I realized I had spent months trying to save something that Madison had already emotionally abandoned. By the time midnight arrived, I knew I was finished. When I returned home, the apartment was empty. Deflated balloons covered the floor, cups were scattered across tables, and pieces of the birthday cake sat untouched. I looked around at the place we had shared and felt strangely calm. I went into the bedroom, pulled out her suitcases, and began packing her belongings. Clothes, shoes, makeup, work equipment, and personal items all went into boxes. I was not destroying anything. I was simply accepting the decision she had already made. Before sunrise, I called a locksmith and changed the locks. I placed her packed belongings neatly outside the apartment door and left one short note on top of the suitcase. It said, "Now nobody is uncomfortable." Then I went inside, turned off my phone, and slept on the couch. There was no dramatic confrontation and no angry speech. She had asked me to leave her alone with Logan, so I gave her exactly what she wanted, only permanently. The next few weeks were difficult, but they were also strangely peaceful. I blocked Madison, focused on work, started exercising again, and eventually began therapy. During one session, my therapist told me that the breakup had probably started long before the birthday party. That thought stayed with me. I remembered every comparison to Logan, every distant conversation, and every time I had ignored my own discomfort just to keep our relationship alive. I finally understood that loyalty cannot repair a relationship alone. About 2 months later, I began hearing pieces of what had happened through mutual friends. Madison had gone to Logan after the party, and their old relationship quickly returned. Unfortunately for her, the exciting photographer she remembered was not the person she encountered now. Their reunion became chaotic almost immediately. Arguments started over messages, work contacts, jealousy, and old photographs. Eventually Logan ended things and blocked her. Meanwhile, Madison's work suffered because she could not concentrate, and clients began leaving. 3 months after the party, Madison started contacting me again. First came simple messages asking to collect her things. Then came phone calls. In one voicemail, she said Logan had been a mistake and begged me to remember everything good between us. When I finally answered another call, she blamed the party on alcohol and stress, then admitted Logan had been controlling. She asked for another chance. I told her calmly that she had made her decision that night, and I had made mine afterward. Her family became involved when she realized I would not change my mind. Her sister called and accused me of overreacting by changing the locks. She insisted that relationships survived mistakes and that Madison deserved another opportunity. I refused to argue. Madison even showed up outside my building one Saturday and waited for me to let her inside. I never opened the door. Her desperation eventually turned into anger, but none of it changed what had happened. 6 months after the birthday party, I attended a mutual friend's birthday at a downtown bar. By then, I had started seeing a woman named Harper, someone I had met through work. Nothing serious had happened yet, but being around her felt easy and peaceful. Then Madison walked through the door. She looked exhausted, approached our table, and asked if we could talk privately. She apologized for losing me and said seeing me with someone else made her realize what she had thrown away. I looked at her and felt something I had not expected. I felt nothing. There was no anger left, no desire to punish her, and no temptation to go backward. I reminded her of the words she had used that night. She had told me Logan was uncomfortable because I was there, so I had left and given her the space she wanted. Now I told her that she was making me uncomfortable, and I needed her to leave my life alone. She finally understood that the door was closed. Madison left the bar in tears, but I stayed where I was. Later, my friends told me I had handled the situation better than they expected. For me, the real victory was not watching her struggle or seeing her regret the decision. It was realizing that I no longer needed anything from her. A year later, I am engaged to Harper, my career is moving forward, and my home feels peaceful again. Madison became part of my past, not my future. Looking back, I used to think karma meant watching someone suffer after hurting you. Now I see it differently. Sometimes karma is simply losing access to the person who kept forgiving you. Madison wanted me to disappear for one night so she could feel comfortable with her past, and I eventually disappeared from her life completely. I did not need revenge. I only needed to stop accepting a place where I was treated like an inconvenience. If this story hit home, subscribe for more.